In 1922, a man walked into P.D. Ouspensky's apartment in St. Petersburg and made a declaration that would forever change the Western understanding of human consciousness. You do not exist. What you call I is a legion of strangers inhabiting the same body. That man was Georges Gurdjieff. And what he discovered about the nature of the human ego is so disturbing that few can accept it even today. Stay until the end, because I will reveal the specific technique Gurdjieff used to dismantle his students' egos, a practice so radical that 27 out of 30 participants abandoned the experiment, claiming they were going insane. George Ivanovich Gurdjieff was born around 1866 in the border region between Russia and Armenia. His early life is shrouded in mystery. Some sources say he was a musician, others a psychiatrist, choreographer, or even a carpet dealer. But one thing is certain. For decades, Gurdjieff traveled through Tibet, Afghanistan, Turkey, and remote regions of the Middle East, visiting secret monasteries, Sufi schools, and centers of esoteric knowledge few Westerners ever set foot in. When he finally arrived in Moscow in 1912, he brought with him a revolutionary understanding of the human psyche. His first statement to students was not comforting. Humanity is asleep. You are walking machines who are not conscious of what you do. But what did Gurdjieff discover that led him to such a radical conclusion? The answer lies in what he called the greatest crime committed against humanity. Gurdjieff observed something we all experience but few admit. We are not a single person. We are a multitude. In the morning, you wake up determined to change your life, exercise, eat better, study more. By afternoon, those resolutions are forgotten. At night, another, I, is in control, promising that tomorrow will be different. In the Gospel of Mark, when Jesus encounters a possessed man and asks his name, the man replies, My name is Legion, for we are many. Gurdjieff discovered that this was not just a spiritual metaphor, it was a literal description of the human condition. In his own words, every minute, every moment man says I, but each time it is a different I. Now it is a thought, now a desire, now a sensation. Man is a plurality. The name of man is Legion. Gurdjieff used an ancient metaphor to explain our fragmentation. Imagine a carriage with uncontrolled horses, a drunken driver, and no passenger inside. The horses are our emotions, pulling in random directions. The driver is our mind, unable to control the horses. And the passenger, the true I, simply does not exist in most people. But here is what is truly disturbing. Gurdjieff claimed that this state of fragmentation is not accidental. It is the result of a deliberate system. In 1917, Gurdjieff gathered his first 13 Russian students for 6 weeks in Essentuki, in the Caucasus Mountains. What happened there was recorded by Ouspensky in his book, In Search of the Miraculous. During those intensive weeks, Gurdjieff demonstrated something terrifying to the students. They lived in a perpetual hypnotic state. They were not conscious of their actions. They reacted mechanically to external stimuli like programmed robots. You think you are awake, he would say. But what you call waking consciousness is only another kind of sleep, sleep with your eyes open. Gurdjieff was known for creating extreme situations to force his students to wake up. He deliberately placed difficult people in the groups. When the other students managed to drive these problematic people out, Gurdjieff would go to their homes and pay them to return. Without them, you don't perceive your own progress, he explained. You need the friction, the difficulty, the discomfort. This is what reveals the multiple eyes that control you. But how to awaken from this sleep? Gurdjieff developed a technique so powerful and dangerous that it is still practiced with caution in his remaining groups today. On an afternoon in 1915, during a conversation with Ouspensky, Gurdjieff introduced the concept that would become the heart of his entire system, self-remembering. You remember 1,000 useless things, he said, but you never remember the one essential thing, yourselves. It sounds simple. But when Ouspensky first tried it, he was shocked. He couldn't remember himself for more than a few seconds. "It was like discovering that I did not exist," he wrote. Self-remembering is not thinking, "I am." It is not mentally repeating, "I am here." It is something deeper. It is the simultaneous division of attention. Normally, when you look at something, your attention flows in one direction, I-object. But in self-remembering, your attention splits, I-object. You are simultaneously conscious of the object and of yourself observing the object. When Gurdjieff established his Institute for the Harmonious Development of Man in Fontainebleau, France, he conducted a radical experiment. 30 people retreated to an isolated house for 3 months with only one task: to practice self-remembering continuously. No working. No reading. Do nothing but try to remain conscious of themselves at every moment. After the first week, 27 people abandoned the experiment. They reported being on the verge of madness. Why? Because when you truly try to remember yourself, you realize something terrifying. You are not there. The 3 who remained went through a process Gurdjieff described as psychological death. And what they would discover on the other side would change their lives forever. Maurice Nicoll, one of Gurdjieff's disciples who completed the intensive training, described the process. "In the first month, you struggle to keep the I am conscious. In the second month, the I itself begins to dissolve. In the third month, even the sensation of being disappears. And then, you finally exist." It seems paradoxical, but Gurdjieff taught that only by destroying the false eyes, the eyes of ego, identification, mechanical personality, could the true self emerge. But here is what shocked even the most advanced students. Gurdjieff claimed that most people do not possess a soul. "The soul is a luxury," he would say. "You are not born with it. You must create it through conscious work." When asked about reincarnation, Gurdjieff replied, "Only those who have created a soul survive death. A Buddha survives. A Jesus survives. But you will simply die. Nothing will remain." Was it a lie? A shock device to wake up people comfortable with their comforting beliefs? Or a literal truth? The answer to that question would lead his students to the most controversial and least understood aspect of his teaching. Among all the symbols and tools Gurdjieff brought from the East, none was more misunderstood or misused than the Enneagram. Today, the Enneagram is popular as a personality typing system. But for Gurdjieff, this would be a grotesque insult to the symbol. The Enneagram was not a typology. It was a map of universal processes and inner transformation. "All possibilities of man are inscribed in this symbol," he taught. "But only those who work on themselves can decipher its secrets." The Enneagram reveals how energy flows and transforms. It shows the points where external shocks are necessary for internal processes to continue. And, most importantly, it maps exactly how the ego perpetuates itself and how it can be transcended. When Gurdjieff died in Paris in 1949, his last words to his followers were enigmatic. "I leave you in a cul-de-sac." What did he mean? Some interpret it as a confession that his teaching was incomplete. Others see it as a final test, forcing students to find their own way instead of blindly following a master. The truth is that Gurdjieff was deliberately paradoxical. He called himself a dance instructor, but taught deep psychology. He acted like a charlatan to repel the superficial curious, but was deeply devoted to those genuinely committed to inner work. Alan Watts called him a rascal saint. Osho considered him one of the great enlightened masters, but warned about the dangers of his method. The danger with Gurdjieff is that you may become excessively self-conscious rather than truly awake. Krishnamurti, another great spiritual master of the 20th century, offered a devastating critique of Gurdjieff's method. The observer cannot free the observed. As long as there is a division between the controller and the controlled, there is no freedom. This critique raises a profound question. By trying to control the multiple I's through stronger working I's, was Gurdjieff truly dissolving the ego, or just creating a more refined superego? Today, Gurdjieff groups still exist around the world, some authentic, others distorted. His teachings deeply influence transpersonal psychology, the human potential movement, and even science fiction. But the central question remains, was Gurdjieff right? Are we truly sleeping machines, fragmented into multiple personalities, living in perpetual illusion? The answer may lie in your own experience. Right now, as you read these words, try to do what Gurdjieff asked Ouspensky more than 100 years ago. Remember yourself. Don't think, I am reading. Feel that you exist. Divide your attention between these words and yourself reading them. How long can you maintain this dual awareness? If you are like most people, not more than a few seconds. And therein lies the whole issue. The battle between Gurdjieff and the ego was not just one man's story. It is the battle every human being faces every moment. The struggle to wake up from a sleep we don't even realize we're in. If this script provoked something in you, leave a like and tell me in the comments, have you ever experienced moments of true self-awareness? Or do we spend our whole lives on autopilot? And if you want me to explore another controversial master of self-knowledge, vote on the next investigation. Aleister Crowley and magic as the science of will? Carl Jung and the confrontation with the shadow? Or the mysteries of the Zen masters who attained enlightenment through the absurd? Subscribe, because the next episode will reveal something that might shake your certainties. The sensory deprivation experiment that proved our reality is constructed by the brain, and how this explains mystical experiences across all religions. You cannot miss this.